The second point that I do think really needs to be taken account of very strongly is for 20 years, from the second half of the 1980s, really until about 2004 or 2005, we've had high unemployment benefit numbers. They might have been going up or they might have been going down, but we actually had high unemployment benefit numbers. And the consequence of that, and it's happened in lots of OECD countries as well, was that the focus in terms of policy and in terms of service provision and resourcing went on that problem, the problem of unemployment and the problem of long-term unemployment. And far, far, far less resourcing and assistance went towards sickness and invalids benefit beneficiaries. That's not to understate that MSD has at various times, and including quite recently, put in place some initiatives, some of which Christopher Prince was talking about just now. But in terms of the weight of resourcing, it has been much, much smaller than the focus on long-term unemployment. I'll skip most of this, other than to say just quickly a couple of things. In sickness beneficiaries population is actually very similar in age structure to pushing the buttons before I mean to. How do I go backwards? Help! Whereas the invalids beneficiary group, as other people have said, is much more weighted to the older age groups, and that raises the question, obviously, of it becoming effectively a pre-retirement type benefit that Christopher Prince was talking about. And it's not just the long durations. There are people flowing into the benefit who've been there a long time, but there are also a large number of older people flowing onto it. The other point I would make is we actually in New Zealand know very little about the labour market qualifications and work experience of sickness and invalids benefits. It's not well recorded, and that's a major problem. Oh, God, I've done it again. It's not designed for left-handers.
Perhaps not. Just right. Those two big ones.
Right. So moving quickly on to policy issues, the first one that I do think is the obvious one. We really have to prioritise sickness and invalids benefit. It came up this morning in one of the discussions, and we really have to shift more effort away from the short-term matching of unemployed job seekers. It was in Paul Gregg's discussion in the UK, and put more of the effort into the harder to place. It's a standard problem that all public employment services face. How do you balance resources between matching at the short end and helping people with higher needs? But I think we need to shift that. The second one is effective work capacity and needs assessment. At the moment, we don't have a system that really allows anyone to say much about what needs people have and their work capacity. Okay, I have 1 minute. And it is really important for vocational rehabilitation and labour market and health assistance. I would just point out that last comment you can do, and Paul was talking about this, the problem that they're having in the UK at the moment. If it's just used as a gateway, and not only is it controversial, it's just not going to be properly effective either. You can get part of a short-term result, but that's all. I'll skip the benefit structure one, and maybe we can talk about that because Paul covered that, and there's some important issues in terms of the UK there. The UK provides one good example. The bottom point is it's absolutely vital that we increase the assistance that we give in terms of vocational rehabilitation and labour market assistance. Just changing the rules and changing the assessment procedures and not coupling it with that type of support is just not going to work. Financial incentives, yeah, they do matter, but it's worth noting that actually while in the last 10 years or so, while those numbers have been, going up, actually the replacement rate, the amount you get on benefit compared to what you would have got on wages, has been drifting down, which is not what you'd expect. There is an incentive to shift onto IB, but at the same time, if IB was working properly, there's a very strong case for a higher rate given our current low rates of benefit. And there's the question about part-time abatement regime for sickness beneficiaries if they're assessed as having a long-term partial work capacity. And the last point that was talked about is the need to involve employers a great deal more than we do at present. And I'll skip the conclusion page. Sorry if I rush through.
Thank you.